Hey guys, Pastor Leandro Batista here on the Church Without Politics channel. A hug to all those who always accompany me and also to the work of the movement. And I hope that the topics we have dealt with here have helped you in some way with regard to clarifying the link between the gospel and politics, or the church and the church state, okay? Obviously, we link our work here to the movement in Truth in 10 Minutes, where I have a personal channel there. And the topic I'm going to discuss here today is very interesting. Really be linked to it because it's very much in line with what I've been saying about the UN and the agenda for 2030 and 2050, which of course everyone knows is the end result of all these revolutionary investments that the world order has been making within society. So it will be very clear to you here. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today revolves around this eschatological theme, but my goal with this topic here today is really to define very clear to you the behavior of this political pastor, or that political ministry that obviously it has no messianic elements. But many people accept this political pastor as a work of God. And that's a serious mistake, a fraud, obviously configured, good. My topic today with you here, forgiveness, is the political shepherd. But within this reality of political ministry, here we bring you the true identity of Martin Luther King in terms of his cause, their fight against racism. Because what you find out about this guy is that he's a recruit for globalism. He is an agent of world order. Ilvo, obviously, I want to point out some important details here, and I know that those of you who are fans will be amazed by me. Good. Remembering that the Church Without Politics movement aims to represent and honor three actions, eminence aspects of the Holy Scriptures, and it is important to make this introduction. First, we present the identity of theological authority, that it is a messianic prerogative, and the one who has the theological authority is the one who fulfills the Messiah's demands. He's the one, in fact, assumes the merit and honor of the verdict of faith, of being the right and final word of faith, okay? The second aspect that we have been presenting to you as an argument is the instrumental unity of duty, of Christian duty, of what it means to be a church. And the scriptures define that, or that definition tool is provided by Christ directly. It's a pre-ordering key. It's in him and his messianic activity, and in a more efficient cause than opinion, than reason, than the idea. So Jesus takes the lead in being the method, the principle, interpretation. As far as faith is concerned, the credit goes to him. The honor is his. So he's the authority, he is the instrument. And the third aspect that we have also been presenting in videos here for you is the detail of ecclesiastical government. Because it is there in the messianic work of Jesus, a type of ecclesiastical government, through men he has chosen and prepared, obviously, personally, to exercise this function of being the leadership of that church or exercising the ministerial function. So, there is a pattern there among the apostles that is seen as a historical and uninterrupted pattern. Why historical and uninterrupted? Because it follows this pattern for the other churches of those who came after, and it doesn't matter what their name is, her location. What matters is that this first church was instituted by Christ through men he chose. So there is a testimony within this pattern. So all of them, in his initial work, represented being for Christ, or progress, the continuity and preservation of his work. In other words, there in the conception of that church, the church was seen as a legitimate act, ministerial, and not that, like a temple, as a hierarchy, as a division of positions. It was more about responsibility to the gospel of Christ than appearance, than the architectural vision, that today many see the church in this way, in a materialistic and non-ministerial way. So, based on these three hermeneutical points, it won't go in. Political pastor, political ministry, and that, the political religious system, which has another origin, another authorship, and an observation I make in every video that Jesus gave in relation to the gospel. He defined any breach of these units and attributes of self-revelation that he represents to be authority, the unit, kingdom and government, any philosophical interference, any rational interference, any modification of what he said, dovere dito, there is a compromise of the final factor of grace and the salvation of our souls. Are you going to widen the path? Are you going to widen the door? Ottimo. You can, but it won't work. Won't save it. He made that clear. He also made it clear that those who take the alternative route and don't go through the door are the mercenaries, the bandits and the thieves. Okay? So, the plane of faith of that church, of this ministry, is not organized and planned, as we have seen. In Christ, we have a fraud. Processual, and obviously the result won't be positive. A lot of people are going to be condemned there. This definition comes directly from Christ. It's not mine. So, therein lies a concern that many people think it will work the way it's being done, and it won't work, because you are completely changing the way he asked. So today's churches represent, in this contemporary vision, represent this deformity, this distance from what concerns the ministerial call. There is no such thing as a political pastor or a political ministry. We assume the criterion of looking for who is the author or the origin of this system that unites state and church, or that politics and religion, the political and religious system. Then we go in search of this authorship, of this historical origin. The authors are men. It's an elitist human order who took it upon himself to create this system, this mechanism. This mechanism is an emancipation mechanism for this single power. The only power that is seen within a historical panorama, like a mated imperialist dynasty. I already read books that I've tried to study. It defines it as a mated imperialist dynasty because it has no homeland and details too. She's like, and atheist because he doesn't even have a religion. It's a system and an order made up of oligarchs, more synarchy that today I'm going to explain the importance of here. He represents or is present in human history through revolutionary actions followed. So you can see the trail of this snake's drool as it's an expression in the protocol of its performance, historically speaking, in this human order. So the political religious system could not and cannot be mixed or applied with something Christian. Gentlemen, it's absurd. Okay? I'll touch on it here and you'll understand more or less what I'm getting at. This platform of uniting politics and religion is cynical, is theatrical, is artistic when it comes to power and politics. It works in an ambiguous way. It works with ideologies and was created for this purpose. Within this platform or this political religious system, there is a paradox. For religion and politics. For religion, the definition is Catholicism and Protestant Christianity, or Islamism, were created by them. Obviously, everyone here to play their part, but however different they may be, their doctrines, his theological thoughts, they are all heading towards the same point. Elect a despot and establish a world order. They are all dispensationalists. They all defend the eschatology of the new world, etc., etc., etc. But it's the same power, is a clamp of the same power. For politics, it is confirmed that these offices were also created here. And all in an ambiguous way, at the same time ideological, but governed and administered by a single power. The modern liberal, aristocrata, the radical democrat and the socialist, everything is theirs. And there is information within this political office. Policy. The aristocrat should always take the lead and stand out more among the others because she is a moralist. Because morals are used a lot in politics, a way to jumpstart and renew the political scene. As it is in religion. Okay? Here comes an observation. All condition society for a new world order. All are objects of revolutionary ideologies. Why is that? Because politics, religion, and consumption, industry, have been created by the world order as a system for annulling free will, a system that works with the introduction of subjections, timoris, subordination. Example, the question of autonomy to annul autonomy. Their understanding here was really that we need to direct people into a labyrinth of ideas and thoughts where everyone is either motivated or held hostage by impractical things. Which is the breaking of free will, da iniciativa individual. The other thing about anonymity. Anonymity plays a part in the question of consumption, industries, the elimination of the rural man for one who depends on industry. I even said this on the Digital Age DVD I recorded, that the understanding is that the Antichrist really is going to be a political system and order that will be introduced by market pressure, by consumer pressure, and all this fits in perfectly with what I'm talking about here. And a summary of everything I've said, the final work of all these investments and revolutions that are heading towards a common point, an international and world state, the final work of this is the UN and its institutions, because the vision of this superpower, so to speak, transnational, of this geopolitics, this hegemony, that we all know it took over from what was developed there by the United States and all those investments that, obviously, you already know that the United States represents in its global economy. That's where the detail comes in. For me to present these points to you, understand what it has to do with Martin Luther King, who is a very important figure, according to what they say, for religious and political struggle against racism. But before I get into that, Gustavo Barroso, for the book Secret Link, he who carried that conception of a Jewish conspiracy, as far as the world order is concerned, yo soy contra, because that human order was a dynasty without a homeland, without genealogies. He's a mixture of everything. But he thought it was the Jews who were leading this conspiracy. But him, there in the book, there's a lot he says that he proves in the Secret Link. He deals with this synarchy that I spoke there in the political religious system because it is present in the oligarchy. This synarchy. He defines that he plays an important role in this political religious mechanism. He defines it as a hierarchical organization. Rationale, which would determine the pursuit of precise and permanent objectives with regard to world government and statehood. Ele define ali that the synarchy would have revolutionary goals and ideologies, and which one does he expose? Social disruption and aggression, which is what I'm going to use here today, okay? That he makes it clear that the good will prevail. Someone needs to create chaos. So the definition here is that the good guys finance the bad, finances or chaos. It's a scary thing. There, in this synarchy, it reveals a corporate arm made up of secret societies that even many of you worry about. And it's a low level of that power. Freemasonry is a low level of this power. There are others who are invisible. Let's go la. He defines that within this corporate arm made up of secret societies that the synarchy controls, that one of the objectives would be social disruption and aggression. These secret societies would fulfill the role of hostility with partial and limited objectives, with a Nazi doctrinal basis, with a racial doctrinal basis, some even esoteric and ritualistic. These secret societies exist. To meet these unlimited partial objective protocols, because they're not in charge, they only fit. And many of them, as well as esoteric, ritualistic, also have a Nazi and racial doctrinal basis. So Nazism and racism were financed by the good. I'll give you an example. Good. The merit of what I'm going to talk about here is Martin Luther King. On extremist groups that act and have acted to persecute, torturing and killing black people in the United States in the 19th century. Okay? I'll mention one for you. To give you an idea of a secret organization, which was even paramilitary, a Ku Klux Klan, that some people think they're in this secret society. There were only white people who hated black people. That they were racist. Let's go là. This issue of racism in the United States. I have a book here to give you an example called The Gospel According to the Klan. That the author here is Kelly J. Baker. And that in the book she puts Ku Klux Klan's call for a Protestant America there. Opens blades. She quotes the following in the book, that Ku Klux Klan based its justifications for hatred on a particular type of Protestantism that resonated among Americans wearing crosses and burning garments. It was in the book, The Gospel According to the Klan. She confirms that this secret society was made up of evangelical Protestants and corporate conservatism. It was a secret society linked to groups made up of politicians, bankers of famous institutions, military, and a network that was untouchable, which is untouchable to this day. So this very worrying issue of racism in the United States really does exist. The understanding I'm giving you here is that the chaos is orchestrated, it is directed, it is run by those who want to do good. And I mean that. Politicians, okay? Then Martin Luther King, he is a figure who appears in this chaotic scenario, the good guy, to combat racial inequality in the United States, which is a fact, but with a predetermined action. Why? Because this competition was created and generated by the same system that bankrolled it. Who educated? Martin Luther King became what he was as a politician, as an activist, as manager. How absurd. Here's an example I can give you. Hitler's ideology was motivated by racism, but it is a funded work of capitalism. Entendeu? In other words, he wasn't really his. He was a figure. He was a politician. It was a funded event, organized to meet the demands of this elite that today, we all know, created what the UN is. That I'm going to talk about here, of institutions that are part of this globalism, who are famous and so on, etc., who accompanied them, financed, educated everything that Martin Luther King. It was at the level of a political ministry or political pastor and manager. Very silly then. A lot of assholes inside the church. Who admires a guy like that? You don't know what I'm talking about here. They never went to research. No, it's the other way around. They know, but they're playing the game. Did you understand that thing? You create evil, you create chaos, and you profit from it. That's how this world is being governed. Gentlemen, it's frightening, and it's framed in today's churches. That's the price of putting politics into the church, but come on. Now I'll start narrating for you. The true identity of Martin Luther King, who fought against a competitor, which was created and generated by those who financed it and educated him politically, religiously, etc., etc. I have it in my sights. Oh, then Ku Klux Klan, which is one of the most dangerous and active secret societies when it comes to racism in the United States, is made up of evangelical Protestants, of Baptists, of Methodists. Baptists that Martin Luther King was too, that his father was too, of the same ministry. Look at this crazy thing, but let's go there. The King's martyr's real name, Michael King Jr. The influence for changing his name came from his father, which was intended to emphasize the protest inspired by Martin Luther, that you alias, he's a throwback to Masonic Protestantism. Both Martin Luther King and his father were members of the Baptist Church. His father was also involved in the Baptist World Alliance. Martin Luther King, who was a Baptist pastor, politician, and activist, recruited by Masonic Protestantism with a performance on WMCA, Young Men's Christian Association. Now I'll start to explain. This association of Mossos, which was an institution financed by the Rockefellers. Okay, and remember that the Rockefeller family is the one that brings French and English Protestantism coming out of the French Revolution with Masonic objectives to penetrate the United States and generate everything you already know that I've been talking about here, okay? The Rockefeller family is one of the most present cells in globalism, right? Today, the YMCA is an institution that is also funded by the Bill Melinda Gates Association as educational programming of assistance, even ecumenical. The mentor who appears in Martin Luther King's life is Benjamin. He already has the means, also a Baptist, CMI member of the UN, because the WCC is linked to the UN, studied at the University of Chicago, is Benjamin, which was also financed by the Rockefeller family. Martin Luther King's father and Benjamin Males also worked together as faculty mentors. He's from this faculty and participated in the Rockefeller family's financial deals, also for the creation of an ecumenical theological center to ITC. And this investment fund set up by the Rockefellers was recognized as Melting, which was created in 1958. So this is just a clear overview of how the Rockefeller family took the lead in financing, to organize, of planning, to educate all those who are at the forefront of protecting racial inequality in the United States. Martin Luther King também was financed by the fund, for this fund that I mentioned here, to ITC, who was also from association, Bill and Melinda Gates. This fund also had links with this association. Another point comes up here. IUNCF, Unity, Negro College Fund, Black Investment Fund, that all the money came from to create these private universities with quotas and race classification. Ok? That John D. Rockefeller Zurich participou publicamente em 1944. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation subsequently joined in 1999, turning the UNCF into a program administrator. Millennium Scholars. It is currently recorded that she is running this institution that the Rockefeller family and this fund also helped to create. Notice that everything there is aligned with these globalist institutions and so on, etc., etc. But what is it all aimed at? This racial issue. To this coverage of really creating and taking the good in favor of a class, at the same time knowing and recognizing this, that the competition was also created by them. Let's go là. There is also the registration of a platform recognized as the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, to SCLC, in 1957, que Martin Luther King fundou, with black church leaders from the South, 60 ministers and church leaders, Ebenezer do Sul, inclusive. Bayard was also his partner on that platform. Rustin, a leading American civil rights organizer and political activist, Protestant, black and also homosexual, as well as communist. But the definition here is that he was an open homosexual in the face of all these rights that he represented. I don't know if that's very relevant for you to know. Good, Ed. This platform, where was this leadership conference? She had an office, and that office was in a Masonic lodge, the Pincial Marconica, that nothing here is by chance. This platform has also received donations from the Ford Foundation and Elaboration and Education, as well as ministerial leadership training conferences. Isso in 1968 sees that they are always aligned with this corporate vision. institutional, this whole para-ecclesial thing, etc., 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 as the current system is. This platform was not only financed by the Rockefeller family of the Bill and Melinda Gates Association, as well as receiving donations and grants from the Ford Foundation, which is also one of the business names that appear in Globalism. Then there's another detail, ANACP, Organization for Justice and the Rights of Black People, also funded by the Ford Foundation, which today is also funded by Open, socketing by Jorge Soros. Look, gentlemen, this is something that is not very difficult to understand. It's kind of obvious, but I'll give you the details. Note that Martin Luther King was creating branches of religious political activities. He was creating branches, all of them built and financed by these compromising funds that they are at the head of world control, a scheme and a plan that has been financed by an international fund that belongs to these globalists. In detail, the platform I'm talking about here, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, it was also used to promote campaigns, politics within churches, and also promoted elections for candidates who were African American. And here comes a detail from our research. Aquele famoso discurso de Martin Luther King, I have a dream, I have a dream. There he shows himself inside the office or political class of a Christian aristocrat because he was a guy who defended or represented this function of demanding a constitution with Christian principles and values, which is very much the hallmark of Masonic Protestantism that we've been working on at Verdadi in 10 minutes. And from time to time, I mention it here in the movement. So this need for the church to use the state to achieve its aims of preventing chaos from prevailing, and detail, chaos. A competition which was created by the same people who are in the good group. So how do you define Marta Lutequim? What I defined, he is an agent of the scheme. This guy is an agent of the scam. And my goal here, with the true identity of this individual and all this frightening commitment here to globalism, plus this other reality of him fighting against a secret society that spread hatred against black people in the United States, that was made, which was made up of the same Protestantism to which he belonged, by the same class of white people. White, conservatives and entrepreneurs, okay? A secret organization made up not only of paramilitaries, but also of evangelicals, of politicians and businessmen who were also part of the system and mechanism by which he received donations and political support. Then I don't care who killed him. I don't care who arrested him. All this is a cynical scenario. It's a lie. And that I am bringing this reality to our days because we constantly show you here these current religious politicians, the same character, the same cynicism, the same mechanics of ambiguity, ideologies of action. This one will. So I hope in my Lord Jesus that what I have said and spoken here, in a way, you can translate this. Your leader in your church. Just the other day we were at the March for Jesus, and there we already have information here. A stage was set up to hold a party for Jesus, show para Jesus, where all interest was focused on just one factor. Introduce the politician and the party they were most aligned with, and receive favors from the state, which has already been confirmed, which was exactly the tax exemption for churches. So you mean it's the same old thing? And then some even talk about it, but I don't mind. I don't want to see that. The important thing is that I'm here, receiving Jesus. I'm here worshiping Jesus. So, unfortunately, it's a system that manages to prevail because there is ignorance, and this agenda, this social engineering programming to generate demented and ignorant people through politics and religion. because Protestantism, like Catholicism, is a religion. Okay? So wait, my Lord Jesus, from now on you won't be an admirer of Martin Luther King. Oh, yes, from his fight for racial inequality or something like that. Because you'll remember what I told you. This action was predetermined. And his competition was funded and organized by the same who were also with him politically. Cheers. God bless you.